What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and hey, we got a big hoot and a big holler, alright? Bigger hoot, bigger holler. Drop a like if you do enjoy this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. I had to take down all my old drug stories and kind of reformat my channel. So we starting from square one, and my channel's dead, but fuck it, we still starting. So either way, let's dive right into it. Now, this particular day was a hoot and a holler. Let me tell you guys, this was almost 2 years ago at this point. I remember, I want to say this was like summer of 2016. And at this particular point in time, you know, I was still going through my kind of like psychedelic phase a little bit. You know, it kind of weaned off a little bit, but I still really enjoyed my good psychedelics, specifically Molly and acid. And, you know, on this particular day, I only had one tab. You know, I wasn't trying to trip my balls off. I wasn't trying to really just send myself into another dimension. I was just trying to chill out and, you know, pop this tab and see what happened, you know? So I decided that I wanted to make some plans before I took this, and I tripped the week prior, and I'd been saving this one tab just for whenever the fuck, really, just for an occasion, because if you have an extra tab, you know, you gotta hang on to it for that one occasion that really calls for it. So, you know, I'm trying to find shit to do. I'm hitting up all the boys. I'm hitting up Chris. I'm hitting up Ashton. I'm hitting up everybody. I'm like, hey, listen, what's the move? What's happening today? And no one's really got anything, but it's a nice fucking day outside, and I want to trip my dick off. So I decide, you know, maybe I'll reach out to some older friends or some people who I don't talk to as much and see if I could find something to do, because the people that I normally hang out with didn't have shit to do. And I was in the mood to like do some shit, you know? So I'm reaching out to people, and I end up contacting this guy who we're going to call Ryan. Now, Ryan is someone who I don't think has been in many stories, if any of the videos on this channel. I mean, especially not anymore that I had to take down over half of my fucking content. But you know, Ryan is a guy who I'd like met him. He's one of those friends where like you have their contact info, you know them, but you don't ever hang out with them unless they're with someone you hang out with. Like, for example, if Ryan isn't coming to hang out with Chris, I'm not going to go hang out with Ryan directly and whoever Ryan's with. You know, I hang out with Chris, and then if Ryan shows up, then we hang out. You know, it's like one of those kind of friends. So I decided to hit him up, and he was like, yo, what's good? I was like, hey, you trying to chill? Let's do some shit. And I don't think we'd ever really like hung out one-on-one or like hung out like without the kind of like common denominator friend that introduced us in the middle of it, you know? So it was kind of weird, but he was like, yeah, I'm down, you know, what you trying to do? And I was like, I don't know, but I got a tab. I want to do some fun shit. Like, I don't want to just sit there and smoke. I want to have a hoot and a holler. And of course, I think you can guess what we ended up doing, sitting there and fucking smoking, but nevertheless, we didn't intend to. So he was like, oh yeah, you know, I think I know some people's houses we could go to. There's going to be, you know, I know a couple people going over to X and whoever the fuck's house it was. I don't remember the guy's name because we didn't ever end up actually going there. And I was like, all right, you know, sounds good. I'll come through in like 30. He's like, bet, yeah, you can come to my place and we can figure out what to do. So, you know, I get ready. I grab all my shit. I had a little bit of weed with me. I had my one tab. I hadn't popped it yet. I decided I was going to save it until I really knew that we were going to be doing some shit. And I went on over there, you know, and Ryan lived maybe like 25 minutes away from me. He was a town over, but it was still kind of a pain in the ass to drive to him because there was like no shortcuts you could take, but I whipped it anyways. So I get over to Ryan's house. I shake up with him. First time actually going to his house, and the guy's got an interesting setup. I don't know if his parents don't give a fuck or like what's going on there, but I walk in the house and just in the living room is like just this like weed dungeon. Like, you walk in and there's just like a couch, there's like a TV, coffee table, and on the coffee table it's just littered with like rolling papers. There's a bong, there was a couple bowls just like scattered around. There was just weed out there, you know, on the table. No idea where his parents were, but I knew that there was no way that he cleaned all this up every day before his parents, you know, came home. It looked like he like lived in this room. So it was like, I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, did his parents smoke? Like, what's going on here? But I didn't question it. I was just like, whatever. I was down for it. So I come in, you know, we have a seat. We're chilling. We're talking. I'm like, all right, so what's the move? You know, what's the plan? What are we doing today? And we're kind of just not really doing anything at this point. And he's like, yeah, well, you know, we could go over to Dude's house. We're just going to call him Dude Geisen. We could go over to Dude Geisen's house and do some shit. Or we could, you know, I don't know, we could smoke some. We could try to find some other shit to do. We could drink, you know, I could get us some alcohol. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, I just want to do whatever's the most fun, and I want to take this tab. So whatever's going to be fun to do while I'm tripping, so be it. Now, he assured me, he was like positive. He was like, for sure, 100%. Yeah, we can go to Dude Geison's house. We could do all this wacky fun shit. We could just have a hoot and a holler. It'll be crazy. So I'm sitting there thinking like, all right, it sounded like it's going to shape up to be a pretty good night. I might as well just pop the tab now. So I've been at Ryan's house for maybe 20, 30 minutes at this point. And since he had really, really confidently told me, yeah, we'll have shit to do, don't worry about it, I popped the tab. Now, I kind of came to regret it, but not really, but we'll get to that. So I popped the tab, and Ryan wasn't like a big psychedelic guy. Like he'd done it before, like he'd done acid before, he dabbled in those things, but he wasn't like, he really just liked to smoke his weed and like pop bars. That was his kind of thing. So I wasn't a big bar guy at this point in time, but I like weed, so that was our common denominator. But either way, we're chilling there. I pop my tab, I'm just sitting there waiting for it to kick in, kind of just pre-gaming a little bit, getting ready. I didn't bring too much weed. I brought maybe a gram or two. And, whenever, because I'm not the greatest at rolling blunts. Like, I can roll a blunt, and it's fine. It's not like a bad blunt. It's just not like an exceptional blunt. It's just a blunt, But if I'm with someone who's better at rolling than me, I'll let them roll. So Ryan was better than rolling at me. I knew he was better at rolling than me because how I view it is I suck dick at rolling joints, and in my opinion, joints are harder to roll than blunts. So if somebody's good at rolling joints, then they're probably better at rolling blunts than me because I can't roll joints and I'm not amazing at rolling blunts. Like with joints, I literally just can't function, and partially because I never really was big into joints, nor were many of my friends, but Ryan was a big joint roller. So I knew, all right, this guy could probably whip up a pretty mean blunt too. So I threw him some bud. I was like, yo, you should roll a blunt. He was like, all right, you got any wraps? Because this guy was like the opposite of me. Like how I only smoke blunts, this guy like only had rolling papers. But I always stayed strapped at the blunts. I was like, yeah, I got you. So I threw him a pack. I think I had my typical dude. It was probably just like a regular pack of Swishers or something. Nothing crazy. And he gets to rolling. He rolls up a pretty fine little dandy blunt. And at this point, we're maybe 20 or so minutes after I'd taken my tab. Not too long had gone by. Still hadn't hit me yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Maybe feeling a little bit of a placebo effect of a hoot and a holler. But nevertheless, it still hasn't hit me. So we light up this blunt he rolled. We're smoking it. It's smoking good. Nothing too fat. He matched me a little bit. I think I ended up putting in like a little less than a gram on the blunt, and he maybe put in about the same as me, maybe a little less, but I didn't really care because it was his house. So either way, we're just chiefing in his living room. We're just sitting there smoking, passing it back and forth, talking for a little bit. And, at this particular point in time, how I handled my acid was different than when I first started. So one tab wouldn't really get me super fucked up. It wouldn't like make me trip out. If I'm in conversation with someone, for the most part, I could maintain myself. I could seem like a normal person. Whereas a lot of people, and even me when I first started tripping, if you're like trying to directly converse with someone, you just make no goddamn sense or just don't stay on topic. It's like you're almost like dysfunctional when you're tripping balls for the first time. But with me, it was a little different. It was like after a while, I kind of came to understand almost how to like control myself when I was tripping. So, the one tab, I wasn't really expecting shit, and I didn't really get much out of it until later. So after we finished smoking this blunt, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty relaxed, and I'm starting to feel the very, very initial come up of this tab. I'm starting to kind of feel a little more. I always struggle to describe the feeling in your body that acid gives you because it's really different from a lot of other drugs. I almost want to say I felt like light, but it's also not light because you feel very like heavy at the same time. It's almost like you feel light on the inside, but like the outside of you is heavy. It's like you're wearing like a set of armor, and then under that armor is like a bunch of cotton, if that makes any sense. That makes no fucking sense. I even know that. So either way, just disregard that whole slew of bullshit that I just spewed. But either way, I just had this weird, the acid feeling is really how I'm going to put it in my body. And I kind of started seeing little tracers. I think that's the proper term for them. I don't remember. I think people call them tracers. The little purple things that go across your vision and all that shit. I started seeing little bits of those. But other than that, I was still feeling pretty good, and the weed definitely helped me, just kind of relax a little bit, even while I was tripping, and I was looking forward to it. And I kind of forgot about almost that we were supposed to go over to Dude McGeison's house. So, maybe 30 minutes go by since we finished smoking that blunt. I'm definitely coming up now. I'm definitely starting to feel it and feeling good. And I ask, I'm like, yo, when are we going to Dude's house? Like, what's the plan? Whose car are we taking? When are we going? That kind of stuff. And he's like, oh, I don't know. He hasn't replied yet. So I'm like, what? Like, hello? I thought this was like for sure. You got me, like, I took this, bro. What the fuck, So he's like, nah, dude, no problem. Yeah, he'll probably hit me up. He does this a lot, he jags a lot. So I'm like, all right, well, fuck it, let's chill in the meantime. So he's like, hey, you want to see something cool? I was like, yeah, what is it? He was like, hold on, you'll see. So he goes upstairs, and I assume he went to his room. I don't know. I just sat there on the couch waiting for him. And while I'm waiting for him, I'm just kind of looking around his house. And his house is... It's interesting. They'll like divide between the part that is clearly like owned by him and the part that his parents like decorate and like own, I guess you could say, is very different. There's a very stark contrast. In the living room, when you first walk in, there's just fucking bongs and rolling papers, weed all over, dude. Just smells like fucking smoke. Just looks like somewhere where somebody would just lay around and get high as fuck all day. And then you pass the living room, and on the other side of the living room is the kitchen and the dining area. And in there, dude, they got these beautiful little pictures and frames, dude. Everything's nicely decorated, perfectly clean. All the chairs pushed in, bro. The tablecloth is fucking immaculate, dude. They just got this beautiful fucking dining room and kitchen area, all these nice little pictures of flowers and shit. It's like you can really see the contrast between like, all right, this is where his parents are, this is where he is, So I'm looking around, taking that in, looking at a lot of the pictures too, because the way you're sitting in the living room, you can kind of see into the kitchen. Not the whole thing, but you can kind of see into that area a little bit. Probably like half of it you can see, and it looked pretty nice. So I was just looking at the pictures on the wall, enjoying those. It's still nice and sunny out. Super nice day out, but we were inside, so it didn't really matter. But it was just good. All good vibes all around. He finally comes downstairs, and he's got this thing in his hands. Let me tell you, he's got a fat fucking rig, and... typically rigs are tiny things for the most part. I mean, sometimes people have big rigs, but those are pretty expensive unless they're cheap and terrible glass and all that. But this guy had a rig that was honestly comparable to a bong. Like, it was like a pretty sizable rig and really nice too. Like, this thing was a beauty. So he brought that down and I looked at it and I was just like, oh my God. Like, when did you get that? Now, the surprise didn't end here. He pulls out. Not really pulls out. It was just kind of sitting there. And I didn't really notice it. He's got this little parchment paper. And there's just that beautiful golden stain on the parchment paper that even through the paper, I knew immediately what was about to happen. I knew that I was about to hit some of these dabs. And I knew that my trip, which was currently just a calm trip, was about to send me to Narnia, directly through the wardrobe. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm hype. I'm like, ooh, I like what you got there. He's like, hey, you want to try it? I was like, fuck yeah, I do. So... what we ended up doing was, this was a kind of guy who didn't like small dabs. He preferred taking a few big dabs and getting really high and being okay than taking a shit ton of small dabs and wasting time and effort. So he just scoops me up this fucking glob. I'm talking thang, just a thang. And what was, the kind of ghetto part, I guess, is for some reason he didn't have a carb cap. So we had to use a spoon and like a little like needle almost, but not really. It was a weird little mechanism he had here. It like wasn't a needle, but it was a needle. And he didn't have a carb cap, so we had to use a spoon as the carb cap. And, he scoops up a fat fucking glob on this little needle mechanism thing, slaps it on there for me. He'd already been heating it up for me. He's got the little torch in there. And I've never been one to, like, own many rigs, or, like, I've never been a big wax guy. I've always been just, I like to roll blunts. That's just my kind of thing. But... I came to appreciate this piece of art in front of me here, because let me tell you, when I hit this thing, it was something. He's got this fucking glob. He's heating it up. He's like, all right, you ready? I'm like, fuck yeah. He let me get the first hit, too. That was generous. Ryan's a good guy for that. But, either way, he slaps it on there. I'm inhaling. I'm trying as hard as I can to hit this fat fucking glob as hard as I can. And let me tell you, I did. And as soon as he put the spoon over the carb, and as soon as... the kind of, how do I put it? that feeling hit my lungs, because you know when you hit a fat fucking dab, the feeling that takes over your lungs is so different from taking a fat hit of a blunt. It's unbelievable. It feels like you're suffocating. It almost feels like your lungs are like not on fire, but very like warm. Your lungs are just very warm on the inside. It's like you dropped a piece of charcoal in your lungs, but didn't set it on fire. It's just a nice warm piece of charcoal, you know? And I'm taking this hit, and I'm trying to zero it. I'm trying to inhale all of it. I'm trying to clear the whole rig, and I just couldn't do it. I took my first hit. I tried to hold it as long as I could, and I exhaled, put my hand over the top to make sure no smoke's leaking out. Took my second hit, managed to clear it on that one. And after my second hit, you know that feeling, for those of you guys, and by the way, I'm not trying to encourage this. Don't do this, okay? But this may make it sound good, but it's not. But, you know, for those of you guys who have ever done this out there, you know that feeling when you're on acid, when you're tripping on a psychedelic, and you smoke. And if you smoke a good bit, or you smoke some really high-quality weed or some really high-quality wax, it almost, as soon as you finish smoking, like while you're smoking, you don't feel it. But when you finish smoking, it almost feels like you've just been buckled into an F1 race car that is on a 90-degree angle up, and you're just shooting. That's what I felt like. I laid back on the couch, and I felt like Jimmy Neutron brain blasting, dude. I literally was neutroned out of my goddamn mind, dude. I laid back, and it almost felt like, even though I was sitting stationary, it felt like I was in a car that was just going way too fucking fast. And I just could not comprehend it. I'm sitting there and I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, this is nuts. So I just kind of had to sit back and take a breather for a minute. You know, I laid back. I let Ryan smack his rig. I let him do his thing. He offered me another dab. I was like, in a bit, dude. Not right now. I'm good. And he was like, oh yeah, I forgot you're tripping. How is that going? And I was like, dude, I'm doing all right for myself. And by this point in time, I'd completely forgotten that we were supposed to go over to Dude McGeison's house, because by the end of, you know, my like sitting on the couch, I swear to God, I sat on the couch just floored for like a solid hour at least. It had to be like an hour. I just sat there talking and like relaxing. We were like watching TV, just chilling. No one else even came through, you know, like we were supposed to have more people. We were supposed to like invite some people over if, you know, our plans fell through. We did none of that. We just sat there smoking a bunch of weed until I finally decided, fuck it, all right, I should probably go home. And, you know, let me tell you guys right now, this particular day was a true hoot and holler. And, you know, even after this day, me and Ryan still stayed those like distant friends. Like, nothing really changed. It was just like whenever we saw each other, we'd bring up that one time. He'd be like, yo, oh, you remember that time you were tripping balls? He'd be like, yeah, dude, I remember. You looked like fucking Jimmy Neutron on my couch. I'd be like, yeah, dude. He'd be like, yeah, dude, you look kind of hot. I'd be like, thanks, bro. You're kind of cute. That kind of shit, you know, just bro love. No homo. Just kidding. But either way, it was a hoot and a holler of a day, even though our plans fell through. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you're new. Keep an eye out for the next video, Life Story Part 2. I know y'all are mad as fuck. It's going to be out within the next couple days, I promise. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.